I have been avoiding being myself fully for pretty much years, over a decade, over 2 decades, whatever it is. Like from the moment I had some maturity, consciousness, whatever, it's just been like addictions to suppress, numb, everything. And there were obviously moments of awakening and being in my power and all of that, but it would never sustain. And it would always be like peaks for moments and then it goes away. But anyway, like I knew that it's time. The time has come that I cannot avoid being a fully activated person. And because I knew that time was coming, I gave myself this last week, so like 7 to 10 days to fully indulge my addict self. So like eating what I want, numbing myself, playing video games, which I've not done for like since I was 16 probably. And like, just being fully in the indulgence, watching TV, whatever I'm doing, it's like I'm just going to block the inspiration. I don't want to feel any inspiration. I don't want to have any feelings, good or bad. I just don't want to feel anything because I know that in the way I've lived my life over the past decade is just feeling everything and being very conscious and at the same time being conscious within, but not fully putting myself out there in the world. And now it's like I know that the time has come to shine outside, which I have been avoiding. And what happened in the last 2 days basically is like I started experiencing the depth of the addict because it was like the fully activated me in his presence, nothing else can really survive. Like if I really lift the lid off, and which I have kind of done already, once that lid was lifted, it's like there is so much power and so much light that I cannot stay in my addicted self. I cannot stay in my trance self, my hypnotized self, my sleeping self, basically. It's like whatever power it had was being used to keep the lid on my power. So I was using my power to keep myself held back just because I did not feel like it was time. But now that I feel like it's time, it's like, okay, fuck it. Like, let's blow the lid off this and let's just show up fully. And I don't remember if, no, I don't know if you remember this dream I had shared about the master is here. Do you remember? Like I had told you about, I had gone to this parallel dimension where there were beings putting on some kind of equipment to enter into their avatars and have experiences in different realities. And it was like a training simulation kind of thing. And
Yes.
like I entered the room and everyone was like, shh, the master is here. Like everyone was whispering in this way.
Yes.
And like the feeling I had at that time was like, oh wow, like this is my power. This is who I am. Like, the way people were looking at me, the respect, the experience, the wisdom that I contain was actually seen by people. And it was, like acknowledged. And the feeling I had at that time is like, it's here now. It's like the master is here. Like I feel that within me. And I feel bold enough to even say that, like, it's time to shine as a master, not just coach or whatever. It's like, no, like the master is here. It's not just any random person. It's like whatever I'm bringing with me is of such value and importance that it deserves that kind of a personality. Someone who will show that they are not just going to be humble. Like basically all of that for me is old paradigm stuff that you have to play small, you have to serve, you have to be humble and all of that. For me, in the new paradigm, humility is about recognizing your true value, not exaggerating it and not diminishing it. But it's like you can speak with pride about your true value and own that, own your power, speak about it without, like, you don't need to exaggerate it because you are that powerful. You can just speak of it as a fact. It's like, yeah, I am a master. I know all the effort I have put in to reaching mastery. And of course, in this lifetime, I've put in a lot of effort, but I also have lifetimes of experience and wisdom and effort that is all condensed into my soul that I'm bringing here. And I can feel that and I know that. And I speak from that place when I say that the master is here. It's not just like, oh, I think I'm a master because I'm better than everyone else. No, I'm not better than anyone. It's like, this is what I'm bringing to this reality. This is my wisdom. And it's, I played this role, I played this purpose. And in that, I have mastery, but there are many things I don't know about. Like there are masters in each domain. And one of the things I was even writing about today is that we are all a master. We all have an inner master. So this is what I was going to come to earlier, is that we all have this inner master, which is waiting to be awakened. It's there. Like we have that wisdom. And we are doing everything in our power to keep that master shut. Because the awakening of that master is essentially the end of our sleeping identity. That little self is going to disappear, and you really have to be ready for that. And this doesn't mean you stop being human and you become anything more. Like, yes, you do become something more, but you also retain your humanity. So that is where also, there is the balance and there is the humility of like, yes, I am still a human. I still have all my human functions and needs and desires and all of that. But I am also bringing something much bigger with me into this reality, which I am now, I can say for myself, I'm excited to bring.
So, wow. I mean, firstly, yeah, hearing someone own, like we talk a lot about owning your power, but when you actually specify, no, it's not just my power, which is it can be in any domain and very general. It's specifically in this regard, like I'm owning the fact that I'm a master. I feel like it gives so many permission slips that I didn't know I needed to hit, like how much I needed to hear it, and I imagine for so many other people as well. And then like the fact that you said we each have a master in some domain within us. So do you think that's part of the procrastinator's role, is that like is it like the long-term game of the procrastinator? The short-term game is obviously it's avoiding doing something it wants to distract you, and avoid doing something it doesn't want to do for various reasons. But then like the long-term game, it seems like it's also like the other parts of that there is this master component to us, and its game is that like I don't want you to ultimately realize that you have that capacity within you, because when you do, it's game over for me.
Yeah. And so the thing is, like all of these terms, I'm actually even veering away from them, like procrastinator, laziness, and all of that. For me, it's very old paradigm language. It doesn't really fit into my understanding of the world anymore. And I have used that language myself for a lot of time. But it just feels like, that way of looking at ourselves in itself is not very helpful. It's like it takes a very closed view on reality, that it's looking at things in a very flat way, instead of realizing that there's a much bigger picture unfolding. Like I have always felt like there is a much deeper purpose to procrastination. And like when we start to understand that, things shift very quickly. That you may have been procrastinating just because it's not what you're meant to be doing, or it's not the right time to be doing it. It's like there is a deeper wisdom in you that is holding you back. And a lot of people try to fight procrastination through will and determination. It's possible to do that. Like, it's possible to become a monkey and just keep repeating the same thing and become activated and become super productive and all of this. It's possible to trick yourself and hypnotize yourself into being very activated. But is that truly feeding your soul? I think that is where the shift comes, is that when you're feeding your soul, you don't even try to procrastinate. Or like you have to basically force yourself to procrastinate because you're conscious that right now I don't want to feed my soul, I just want to be human, which is what I was doing in the last 10 days. I've had a lot of inspiration and all of that, and I just want to break from it. I don't want to feed my soul for some time so that I can just have like a vacation from my soul. But that's my journey, because that's where I'm at in my life right now. I've been living from my soul for a long time. And from time to time, it's like, okay, I take a break from it. But most people are living in the opposite, where they're living in the robotic state and they are feeding their soul from time to time. But for me, procrastination is a sign that you're not in alignment with your soul. And the moment you're living your soul's code, it's that there is no desire to procrastinate. And if procrastination happens, it's because your soul's code is not receiving enough energy and attention. So the other parts still have too much control over you. You're still somehow feeding those parts instead of feeding your soul. So one of the teachings I was receiving today morning is like, obviously, like I have been practicing this for a long time, and I've even been teaching this in the group and talking about it in videos and everything. But like it really cemented that my focus where I wanted to be is everything is about your state of consciousness. Everything is about your level of consciousness. So you're like basically showing up, being visible, being a good speaker, being charismatic, being rich, being skilled, being in your genius zone. All of this doesn't require effort in the way that we think it does. The effort we need to put in is to become that master within us for whom it is effortless. If we try to hack it by by being in our ego and wanting to be all of those things, we have to put in a lot of effort to learn something that is already innately present in us. It's like once you connect with your source code and you know that this is my gift, this is my zone of genius, what a lot of people end up doing is that they slip out of the soul and they go into the mind and they're like, oh, my zone of genius is painting. And now I have to go and spend 20 years learning how to paint so that I can become a master painter. Or you can just switch into the painter within you. If your zone of genius is truly painting, your soul has that gift activated in this life, it's going to be effortless. So your job is to clear out all the blockages from activating that gift. It's like your job is only to activate that fully, and then it's effortless. Or you can spend 20 years wasting your time trying to learn something and get good at something which you already are a genius at. All the learning will not even get you close to the level at which your soul will express itself. So if you do try to hack it, like learning and with will and effort and all of this, you may become, you may get skills, but what will make it shine is still going to be your soul. And until you activate that, all of that effort is basically wasted, because you will never be in the excellence. You will always stay below excellence, because what brings excellence is the soul, is that effortless pouring through of inspiration into whatever you're doing. And in that, there is no feeling of frustration and obligation and, like, oh, am I good enough or no? It's like you are not even there. You're just a channel allowing this to pour through. Whether you're a speaker, whether you're an artist, celebrity, or even doing something completely different, whether it's a business, creating code. Like I was a software developer, and I've even spoken about this before, that I used to channel writing code. I used to intuitively fix bugs and all of that. So but that's the thing, is that when I was doing software development, I was the software developer. I was not a human trying to be a software developer. I was just a software developer. I was in that identity. And today, I'm talking about spiritual mastery. I'm in the master talking about spiritual mastery. I'm not a human with my experiences talking about spiritual mastery. No, I am someone who has attained the state of being a spiritual master. And through that, I can talk effortlessly, because it's not me as a human. I'm just channeling that wisdom or whatever it is of the master is coming out. So when I say the master is here, it's like, all it means is that I am in that identity. I'm in that energy. And just like that, so basically, the way I see it, depending on the age of the soul, depending on the level of experience of the soul, there can be many identities that you can tap into. Like this is kind of like the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, where basically it's like you can tap into various different versions of you and bring their genius through you. But that all depends on the level of your soul. So, but I do believe that each soul has the potential to incorporate one mastery at least. And some may be able to incorporate several different masteries. Like I have experienced that when it came to, I had mastery in coding, I had mastery in therapy, I had mastery in facilitating ayahuasca ceremonies. I currently feel like I have mastery when it is about identity, energetics, and like spiritual mastery and all of that. So, but that's because I feel, and also I am very proud of my driving mastery. Like I really like, I have felt a connection in my past life to like a race car driver or something like that. Like I really feel like when I'm driving, it's not me driving. I'm in a state where it's like I am a driver, or like a professional driver or something like that, for whom it's just effortless. Driving is just natural and intuitive. So for me, spiritual mastery really is about unlocking the soul and allowing that identity to fully activate and being in that. So all you are doing is shifting into that identity that already has the genius. You are not trying to you're not trying to gain the skills of a genius. You're just becoming a genius.
Okay, yeah. What's interesting is also that you're like, what you're describing is you're channeling your soul. Like you are channeling your soul, which is just a interesting thing to consider. But where do you see the difference between channeling your soul versus channeling an archetype? Are they like the same thing to you?
I think it's so much about language here, because also I want to just make it clear that I don't want people to get stuck on the language and the words that I'm saying. because it's irrelevant. You have to feel into the concept behind it. You have to feel into the energy of what I'm saying. And this is where I think a lot of people get trapped and stuck, is that a lot of it is just the same thing expressed in different language over and over and over. And it doesn't really matter what words we are using in the English language or whatever language we are using. It's like what really matters is the energetics of it. It's like the actual experiencing and the being and the act of it, which is non-verbal, which is the actual thing, right? Like words are just a representation of the thing, but the actual thing is the experiencing of it. So for me, it's just language. I would, so to answer your question, it's a yes. It is the same thing. It's just expressed in different words. I prefer these words because it gives me ownership. It gives me the sense that I am being this, and it also gives me permission and ownership to switch and change out of it. It's like if I am done with this identity, I get to choose that I'm done with it and I move on, which I did several times in my life. Like when I moved on from the software developer, just because I'm a genius at that specific thing, I don't have to remain a software developer my whole life. I get to pass on that energy to someone else, and someone else can become. So in that sense, you can say it's an archetype. Like, yes, there is a software developer hovering in the ether who incorporated into me for whatever 10 years. And then when I was ready to move on from it, it moved on from me too, and went and incorporated into someone else. And that person then became a great software developer. And right now, I feel a match and a resonance to this spiritual mastery and teaching about that. And that is what I have incorporated now. And maybe 10 years later, I'm done with it. And it also moves on from me and goes and incorporates into another body. So you can say it's an archetype. You can also say it's like the oversoul, which has everything. And the oversoul, I'm channeling the oversoul. And once I am done with that, it can go into another body, which is also connected to the same soul or the same oversoul. It's all language. And at some level, it's all nonsense. It doesn't matter. The main thing is like, the main teaching here is that instead of trying so hard to be a great software developer or a great coach or whatever, channel the one who's already that, who knows it intuitively. And then you may need to learn some skills here and there. You may need to pick up something, but that's going to be effortless. And that is the key shift, is that because that, let's use the word archetype, because that archetype is a genius at whatever it is doing already, because it's so effortless for that archetype, right? It doesn't need to spend energy in its zone of genius. It only spends energy or effort in things which it needs to pick up, and it's excited to pick up those things, and it's easy to pick up those things because it's all part of, like, it's part of the game, right? And it's like, oh, like I have all of this that I'm very excited to offer, and I'm already offering it. And now I see that there is a skill. If I pick it up, I make it even better. So I just keep adding things in, but from a very different energy. It's not like, oh, I have to put in effort and I need to reach this goal and I need to do all of this. It doesn't feel heavy. And I think that's a better way to express it, is that when you're learning something, when you're doing something, the energy is very light, it's very effortless, it feels great, you're enjoying learning, you're enjoying growing, you're enjoying whatever you're doing. Whereas if it is being done, let's say for money, as a job, as an obligation, a responsibility, I have to do this thing because I want to prove to the world that I am the best. Like when you're in your zone of genius, when you're in this archetype, whatever way you want to express it, you don't give a shit about the validation from the world. You already know you are a master, and the world is going to recognize that, and the world is going to see that because it just effortlessly shines through you. It just radiates through you. You can't not be seen. You, like, people don't question your authority. That's another aspect of it, right? Like a lot of people are trying to establish their authority and learn all of these soft skills on how to be confident and charismatic and all of that. All of that just comes through naturally when you incorporate that inner master, because it's just who I am. Of course, I'm confident being me. Of course, I have authority in what I have been doing for lifetimes. Like, it's a no-brainer, right? I don't need to feel nervous or anything. It's just like, yeah, this is me. I'm just showing up. And I have even experiences, like we even recorded a podcast episode with a client, Gargi. It's there on the channel, where she talks about how she became like a super respected speaker after doing the retreat with us and some coaching with us. That she basically used to be very nervous as a speaker, but she did not want to, or she did not do any efforts in, like, learning how to be a great speaker. She came for the retreat and it just got activated in her. And when she went back, suddenly like people are in awe. They're calling her for speaking gigs. They're just handing her the mic randomly, like, speak. We want you to speak. We want to hear you. So all that happened was she activated that state of consciousness. She activated that part of her soul's core, whatever way you want to put it. That mastery is a state. That's like the key over it. Mastery is a state which you can activate, not through effort and learning how to be a master, but by activating the energy of it, by removing the blockages from it. And just to add to that, in my experience and opinion, this also applies for things like healing. Like if you have illnesses and all of this, like a lot of people are putting a lot of energy and effort into healing the illness or becoming fit or doing exercise. Like again, I'll give examples from my own life. I used to be a couch potato. I used to love being a couch potato. I had no intention to exercise. I used to love eating junk and just basically, because my metabolism was great, I was like, I don't need to exercise, I'm fine. And I did not even enjoy exercise. But today, like I go walking and hiking and all of this for like 5-6 kilometers, and it's effortless. It's effortless. And the old me, it's impossible I could even do any of that. But all I did was activate that state by becoming the person who loves exercise. It's not the lazy me has to become disciplined. And I had this shame for such a long time that whenever I tried to be more active or do more exercise or do more yoga, it would always come with this program of like, it's about self-discipline and overcome your laziness by setting an alarm and following a routine. And I just could not do it because my heart was not in. And it's effortless today. I have not done anything in terms of building discipline. I've not done anything in terms of fixing my laziness or fixing my procrastination. I just became the one who loves to exercise. I activated that state within me, and today I love it. The same when it comes to healing. Like even my eyesight, I used to wear glasses 24/7. I stopped wearing glasses. I had several physical issues because of the way I was living life. Like my knees would have pain, my back would have chronic pain. Like today I have no pain. I've not had any serious illnesses, but I know of people who have healed serious illnesses by changing the state of consciousness, by activating the healed state. It's like, yes, we have the capability of self-healing. It's just to activate it. It's not, self-healing doesn't activate at certain levels of consciousness, in certain states of consciousness, but it does activate in other states. So what you have to change is your state of consciousness to activate the self-healing. And boom, like it just happens. And there's tremendous amount of proof out there of people doing this. Like Joe Dispenza specializes in this, and there's so many other healers. I'm taking his name because he's popular. Wim Hof, Iceman, has shown that state of consciousness heals things. You may or may not like those people, and I don't care about those people personally. I'm using those examples to say that it is what affects everything. You can go the manual route, taking medication, trying to build discipline through effort and will, or you can go through this much more effortless and easy route where you activate that state within yourself. So once again, a lot.
What is can you describe for people your process of activating these energies? Because I know you mentioned you have to go, like, we're talking about it like activation incorporates a lot of things. And like you mentioned, you have to first figure out what is blocking you from it. So there's that aspect. But then also once you've, let's say, removed all the blocks to it, what is your actual process for, I want to invoke this part of me, like right now? Or
see, first, I just want to point out that there is no figuring out what are the blockages. The blockages are just going to surface automatically. They will surface the moment you are on the path of activation. So that's the big shift from the old paradigm, where a lot of people are focusing on what is blocking me, what do I need to heal, what are my traumas, and they spend all their energy on what is wrong with me. Why am I not good enough? Why am I not capable? Whatever bullshit, all the nonsense. And I was preaching all of this. I'm calling it bullshit, not from a, like, putting it down derogatory ways. Like I have been there myself, and I was at that level of consciousness. Again, it's a level of consciousness where you focus on healing and all of that. And even as a teacher, even as a healer, therapist, coach, whatever you want to call it, I did focus on that because as a therapist or coach, that was my level of consciousness. But the moment as a coach, I lifted my level of consciousness, I started realizing that the methods that I'm using are not the most effective method. I'm not going to waste my time nor my client's time in this nonsense anymore. It's like, let's use something that's a lot more effective if you're ready for it. Not everyone is ready for it. Not everyone wants it. Some people prefer that route, and there's no judgment to that. Like there's a lot of people who are just like, okay, I prefer the slow therapy route. I prefer the healing, which is focusing on traumas and all of this. Great. If that is where you are right now in your life, that's what you go through. But the same person, if they choose a different route, can have a very different path and speed at which they're doing things. So coming back to your question, when you ask me the question, my human immediately is like, I would love to know the process too. As my human self, right? Like, so this is again like that distinction between the master is here and me as a human. I have said this before, like I'm always listening to what the master is saying because I want to learn too. My human is there. It's not like it's gone. But and I've spoken about this in many episodes before that basically what was happening is like when I'm talking, when I'm giving a session, when I'm recording, it's like there is this presence that has this wisdom. What has happened in the last months and especially in the last 2 days is like I am not just in like, the master is not just coming and going. I'm becoming one with the master. I'm fusing, knowing that that is who my real identity is. That's who I have been for many lifetimes. And there's like basically a switch in the identity. So it's not me incorporating a master, I'm becoming the master. I just want to make that distinction too. And like, there was this tiny glimpse of the human saying like, oh, I want to know too. But then the moment I heard that, right, I could actually feel like this time I'm not the human. I'm hearing the human saying I want to know too. But I feel like the master was going to give the answer, and the answer is here because again, like my human, if I try to think about the answer, I'm like, I don't know how to activate. Tell me. If I have to think about it, that's where I am. But if I channel into my wisdom as the master, for me, the answer is intention. You intend to activate something. And it's kind of like synchronous. It's like what you're intending to activate is intending to activate through you. It's becoming a match. That is activation. Is that basically the frequency is matching. It's like two pieces of puzzle are locking in. And the locking in is the agreement and the agreement happens through intention. It's like, yes, I want this. And my previous intention was, I don't want to be fully activated all the time. I want to be in my human. I want to procrastinate. I want to indulge my habits and my addictions. And I want to eat whatever I want. And I want to play video games. I want to watch Netflix for 16 hours a day, whatever I want to do. That was my agreement. It's like the master can come and go. And at the same time, I would feel frustration. It's like, why can't the master stay all the time? So there was that part of me that wanted the master to fuel and integrate. But the rest of me was not ready. And I respected that. Today I have reached a place from whatever inner work I have done, basically working on those parts of the addictions and all of that, not focusing on the addiction, but basically the way I see it is like I said, my intention at one point became, I want to be the master full time. I want to incorporate that and fuse with it. So once my intention becomes that, it's like I said, the blockages start surfacing. And I just started noticing that, well, this is not going to help me fuse with the master. So it's time to give this up. It's time to give this up. It's time to move on. It's time to stop thinking in this way. And along with all of that is like what I practice is a lot of energy movement. And this is what I'm going to be doing more as I start offering some things which will be available on my website. Is that basically I'm going to start doing sessions, like energy sessions where I teach people how to move energy and also creating an energy field where energy is being activated for people. So it's like basically the intention of the group, the intention of the space, while I'm holding the space, while I'm leading the space, and I'm also obviously bringing a lot of energy. That is activation energy. It's like everyone's intention also amplifies that. So it's not like I'm doing something. I'm not the only one doing something. It's like everyone is bringing together energy to activate the whole group to a whole different level. So I feel like that is definitely something important that I have been practicing in my own life is like bringing activation energy into your life. So there is like, there are different types of energy, right? Like we are aware of that there is passive energy, there's resistance energy, there is activation energy, there is whatever. I don't want to go into listing everything, but so basically there is one frequency of energy is activation. So it's like basically invoking that energy into your life, whether if you don't know how to do it, like that's what I'll be teaching in what I offer soon. And it's like the more you activate, you basically what you're doing is like you're reaching the level where you become a match. But the key is intention. It's like, what do you want to activate and what do you want to match with? And I'll go into details. Like basically, I'm going to be offering a masterclass where I will go into the proper details of this. So in the description of the video, I'll put a sign up for that. But what I will be talking about in the masterclass is like how to identify what you want to activate, how to become a match for it, how to essentially like Also identify the blockages as they come up, how to realize that you are not being a match for what you want, how to realize that you're contradicting yourself, all of this, because we are full of contradictions, and that is essentially what causes the frustration in us, that why we are not getting what we want. So if I want to become rich, let's say, what, that's only a part of you that wants to become rich. And the thing is, let's just use the term millionaire, okay? Like, you want to become a millionaire, you're only focusing on the money aspect. But the one who's going to be a millionaire is doing many things that you may not like in your current state, is being in certain ways, is acting, behaving in certain ways that you may not like, simply because the habits may differ, the belief system may differ, the kinds of people that you're surrounded may differ. And all of that will basically block you, because unconsciously you know that becoming a millionaire means all of that. So you're only focusing on the money. And it's like you're not seeing the full perspective, and that is how you are contradicting and blocking. So as we go through the masterclass, it's going to be about refining, like, is that really what you want? Let's identify what comes with it, which parts you don't want, and how you may even tweak it. So there are probably a million ways of being a millionaire, right? Like, you can be the most shithead millionaire in the world, and you can be the most philanthropic millionaire in the world, and there's everything in between that. And like, you get to create your version of being a millionaire. So also, like, the moment you start identifying the contradiction and the resistance, it doesn't mean that now you have to become something you don't like or don't want. It's like, how can I tweak this so that I get to create my version of what I want? The same with being an artist, the same with being even a mother. Like, I don't want to be a mother, but I want to be a mother. I don't want to be a mother for all of these reasons, because that's the way my mother did it, and I don't want that. That's the way I have seen other mothers doing it, or the current mothering culture is full of this shit, which I don't want, but I really want to be a mother. So once I identify what aspect of being a mother needs to be tweaked, I create my own version of it, and I become a match to that mother. I want to be that mother. I don't want to be just a mother, or the way culture defines mother, but I want to be that mother. And then there's excitement, then there's activation, then it's like, yes, bring it to me, give it to me. I want this. So again, like, being a great mother is within you. It's just to be activated. You don't need to go through books and all of this and courses and blah, blah, blah. It's like, activate that great mother within you.
Oh my God, so much. Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I can feel also, like, like my human that's listening to everything is like, wow, that's about to process.
Mhm. I'm really actually kind of happy that you did say, yeah, you know what, it's not something you can describe in human technical terms. I imagine that when you teach people this, you're actually transmitting the how through your being in the teaching. It's not through the words, but like, you get, and also I know what you're saying, like, a part of you just kind of knows when you found the right version of you that you want to be. You just know. And yeah, the way that I've been doing, I was kind of asking you because I wanted to check, like, am I doing it right? Like, because I don't know what I'm doing, but it sort of feels, it's very, yeah, just ineffable and weird. But like, I feel like I'm calibrating myself to a timeline where I am X. Like, it's somewhere in the multiverse, and I'm like, that's the timeline I want. And then I'm just sort of like calibrating to emerge, and I feel like I'm merging. Like, I just spend time feeling into that being, which is me, and just like, yeah, like the frequencies of becoming harmonious. It's something like that. So it sounds like whatever way anyone is approaching it is kind of probably, as long as it feels to you like afterwards, when I'm finished with it, there is a new energy in me. Like, there is something substantive afterwards, that I feel a shift in my state, in my frequency. So I'm guessing what you're saying is sort of like, if you feel something like that, keep doing that, and that energy will give you the information. Like you said, it will come up and let you know, like, if there's blockages and contradictions, and you'll know through that, just through setting the really strong intention and giving it space and time to merge and calibrate, you'll already be on the right path, something like that.
Yeah. The way I see it, it's like, I called this process for myself over the last 3 months the wormhole experience. And that's kind of what I'm going to be creating for others too. Is like, essentially, the initiation of the wormhole is announcing your intention. This is what I want to become when I exit. Now, you may have ideas and thoughts of what it is, but what it really looks like on the other side of the wormhole, you cannot tell. That's also important to realize that those desires are leading you by what appeals to your current self, but what you come out as on the other side may be even better than anything you desired. And it may not exactly match what you desired, but what you are speaking beyond words, what your soul really wants to manifest through you is going to happen anyway. And that is, I think the key point is like the trust and the faith that I will get out of the wormhole on the other side and I will become that. Where many people get trapped is impatience, timing. It's like, oh, it's not happened yet. It's not working. I need to do something else. No, it is working. So I think speed is very much to some extent in our control. And that depends on how much we are attached to our old identity and how much we are resisting the new identity. So some people, and depending on the kinds of shifts you're making also, right? Like some people may be fast with certain identity shifts, and the same person may take a lot longer with a different identity shift. And so there is no prescribed formula and like, give me a guarantee that in 1 month I will become this person. It may happen in 3 days, or it may take 3 months. Like, I don't know. It all depends on what you're shifting, how fast you're ready to shift also. So it's slightly on a different tangent to what you're saying, that yes, it is very much the calibration process. And as you're calibrating, all the stuff keeps coming out. But I like to call it the wormhole because it's like in the wormhole, everything happens. Like the wormhole is basically the process of calibrating, of identity shifting, however you want to call it. It's like, again, like don't focus on the words. The process is happening through intention. And yes, also remaining like committed to the intention. A lot of people lose the energy midway, or they have this burst like, oh, I want to become this. And then 10 days later, they're like, I think something else is more appealing. And it just completely shift direction. It's fine. Again, there's nothing wrong with it. And it's just that maybe as you went 10 days into the process, you realize I don't really want this. And that's fine. And that happens a lot. That's also part of calibration, where the wormhole is having its effect. It's working. And you're going to come out on the other side, just not with what you thought you're going to get when you entered it. So you thought you're going to become this. And 10 days into the wormhole, you suddenly realize, oh no, I don't want this. I want something else. That is still part of the same wormhole. It's still part of the same wormhole. It's just that that is how desire leads you into coming out of the wormhole and getting what you were really asking for. This is the crucial thing. Is like what we are really asking for is not in words. Some people may not exactly and precisely, and they get exactly that. Many people, in my opinion, get what their soul was really asking for. It does manifest. They just did not realize that I was really asking for this. And many times it turns out to be something that's a disappointment or is unfavorable to their mind, to their ego identity. But it is still what you were really asking for. Then the next process, the next wormhole is realizing, why did this manifest? Why was I really asking for this? So it's to continue to take responsibility and ownership that I have manifested this. I have manifested everything that is in my life. That is how you become a manifestor, is when you take that level of ownership, that everything is me creating, me shifting into whatever I'm experiencing today. If I have that power to create this, I have the power to create anything else.
Okay, I just have to like sit with. There's something so profound about that last statement. Oh, I know it. Like I know I have, but it's when you said that's how you become a manifestor, is when you take the full ownership of you already are the manifestor. Holy shit.
It's really like, so this is something I have wanted to teach for a long time, but I've not spoken about yet. It's like one of the things is when we are going through different levels of consciousness, you start breaking out of certain universal laws, cosmic laws that only apply at other levels of consciousness. One of those laws is the law of luck or chance. Another law is the law of accident, the law of fate. Those laws apply at certain levels of consciousness, right? Yes, there is such a thing as luck. Yes, there is such a thing as chance. Some people are lucky. At a different level of consciousness, there is no longer any luck. You are the creator of every single thing. And you stop giving credit even to luck and the universe for things that are in your life. I have created every single thing, the good and the bad, the nice and the not so nice. I have created every single thing. That is a level of consciousness. There's nothing else. And what changes, it may seem as trivial as changing language, but it has a profound effect when you stop saying, I got lucky or I had bad luck. I had good luck or bad luck. No, there was no luck in this. Essentially, what I'm saying is that you are saying I am responsible for guiding and manipulating every force that has resulted in the creation of my life as it is today. That is the power of intention, is that I, by my intention, purely by my intention, begin to manipulate the forces of the universe. And they end up creating what I experience. That's it. It's that simple. It's that my intention manipulates the universe. Now, of course, this is a debatable topic, right? Because then is it that I am all powerful and my thing overrides everyone else? No, that's not true. You are one force and there are infinite forces in the universe. So depending on the power of your intention, depending on the power of your consciousness, you can, depending on the level of your consciousness, changes how much you can influence and how much you can affect in the universe and how much you can manifest through that. So part of humility, like I said, is acknowledging what is my real level. What is my real level? And it's okay to be at a lower level. There's no shame in that. It's just that, okay, this is where I am today. There is eternity and infinity. Someday I will be at another level where it will be easier. But today, this is the level I'm at. This is how much I can influence. And I will use that too. And I will not feel bad about myself. It's just like, this is the experience my soul has chosen, is to be at this level right now. Okay, let's play this game. Let's enjoy this game. Why feel bad about it? And maybe as some things shift, I activate a whole different levels. Or I'm in the presence of certain people that activate a certain level within me and manifestation becomes a lot easier suddenly. That is definitely an effect that is very well known. It's like the people you're surrounded by affect the level of consciousness that you have, the things that are happening in your life. So being in the presence of celebrities produces certain energies within you. Being in the presence of rich people, being in the presence of spiritual masters, this is a very well-known phenomenon. That in the presence of a spiritual master, suddenly things activate within you. You start having enlightenment experiences, all kinds of different experiences. So basically, that master, or that billionaire, or that celebrity has an energy field which is radiating certain energies, and anyone who's in that picks that up, receives that, and it gets activated within them too. So that is what I was talking about. Like when I'm offering these sessions or masterclasses, I do intend to create that energy field. Like again, I just want to make it clear that when I'm talking about all of this, that is a skill that an energy master or spiritual master has. It's very effortless. It's like making a great meal for a chef. It's effortless. But if I have to make a great meal, I will first spend 10 years trying to learn cooking. And then maybe 2 days chopping vegetables. And on the third day, I will be able to prepare a decent meal, right? Like that's how it is, the process. But as someone who's worked on energy mastery and spiritual mastery, not just for this lifetime, but for many lifetimes, it's something like, yeah, I can command energy. It's easy. And I can create that energy field and I can influence it and people receive that and people get activated by that. But it's not just me, and I'm not unique and special in that. There are many energy masters who can do this kind of work. And it's to use that opportunity when it's available, when you get to be in the presence of that. Like I have experienced the presence of other masters in other fields in all kinds of different ways, right? Like when suddenly you just realize like, wow, this is the gift that this person is bringing, and I feel it and I absorb it and I use it to grow. It's like it's really to take that opportunity to be like, yeah, this is meant to happen right now, and what do I want to activate within myself? That's the question. It's like what do I want to activate within myself? Another way of asking the question is what is wanting to be activated through me, and let me give myself to it. A lot of people have that fear, which is like what I spoke about, the resistance to the new identity. Is like, can I allow myself to die in a sense? Can I allow my old identity to die and allow myself to be taken over by this new identity? And this new identity may repel a lot of the people who are in the presence of the old identity. Like I have experienced that a lot. Individuation, switching identities does cause a lot of people to dislike you because they no longer like the new version of you. And it's fine, but the new version of me already has its own vibe, its own aura, and it will attract its friends, its colleagues, its whatever. And after having gone through so many identity switches, I'm very comfortable shedding one, picking up another, and seamlessly moving through like new people, old people, detaching, moving forward, whatever it is. But I know that many people struggle with that too. But that struggle is just a state of consciousness. It's just a way of thinking. It's like you can just drop it all very quickly and just be like, okay, this is what's happening. I accept it and I move on. It doesn't need to be all of this grief story and heaviness around it. It's just like, okay, that's where I am. I accept it and I embrace the new. I enjoy the new. Like I have this story going back to when I first left India to go for my master's degree in the US. And my house was with my family and friends. Like there were like 20 people at home probably. And everyone was crying. And like, all we're gonna miss you. And like it just created this vibe, this energy. Like even people who I would have never expected to cry were suddenly crying. Like, wow, that's a spectacle. And I was with the biggest smile on my face. Even with all of that, I was just like, I'm so happy to be going from here. I'm not, well, let me rephrase. I was so, there was a part of me that was also happy to be leaving India. And there was a part of me that was very excited to be going to the US and going for a master's degree and all of that. And my focus was on that. My focus was on, I am super excited on what's coming. And I was like, okay, this is done. I move on. And like Ruta, who's been on the podcast and show before, she had the same, and like she had even created a video about moving on from relationships in this way, that when it's done and you move on. And she got a lot of flack about that on her YouTube channel, like people saying that, oh, you're heartless, you're a narcissist, you're this or that. And it's just like people don't get it, that it's a level of consciousness, it's a state of consciousness. It's while we are in it, we feel immensely. We are super connected. We are empathic. We are sharing deep experiences, very profound experiences, more profound than most people ever experience with others. Like I have got that feedback so many times that the experiences that people have with me are very, very profound. And I live in a state of detachment, and that's fine. Like I don't have any shame about that. And if you don't get it, maybe use it to your benefit and be like, maybe I don't need to be so attached to my stories. And there is a level I can reach that I can activate within myself where it's just essentially an acceptance of life. It's just, I accept life for what it is, right? Like life is transitions, life is change, life is constant death, life is constant death. And the thing with both of us is that there is such a deep acceptance of that, that when it comes, it's like, let go, detach, fly on to the next. And it doesn't mean that there is no pain of loss. The thing is that we feel the pain of loss as it comes and without attaching any story to it. And that is where it moves very quickly. It moves very quickly. Like I've experienced this in so many aspects of my life. And I have also experienced attachment. Like in relationships, I have been terrible in overcoming attachments at one stage of my life. And then there was another stage where it was like, okay, it's done. So I have experienced both sides. And that's why I know that it's only about where your consciousness is, where you're focusing your energy.
It is really interesting, the paradox of people from the outside could look at this way of being as somewhat cold, like being detached is like somewhat cold and unempathetic, or even go to the extremes, like you were saying with Ruta, of accusing them of being narcissistic. But from my perspective, what I find so fascinating is that it's this marriage of detachment with, but like unconditional love.
Mm-hmm.
Like I haven't experienced that from other people. I don't even know how to put it into a box or a bow and explain it really, but it's somehow it really works, and it's so freeing, and it feels very light, and it's like you have all of the depth without any of the constraints, the usual things that the usual things that tend to actually suck the life out of the relationships. It's not something that I think most people who are just, if you don't have people like that in your life, or you're not at that level of consciousness, then you probably are going to just assume that someone is extremely cold and not understand it, and that's okay.
Yeah, and just to like also explain that in many cases, I'm not saying in all cases, but in many cases when I have detached and moved on, it's like I'm only moving on from one version of the story. I am not deciding that it's over, and I'm not, in some cases I am, but in many cases I'm just like, okay, there's a transition, the relationship is changing, the friendship is changing, the equation is changing, and I am accepting of that. And the reason that there is not a lot of grief is like, okay, like you are still here, we are still connected, we don't need to have all of this story and drama. What happens to a lot of people is that they cannot accept the change in the status, and that is where like they also block, and they're like, okay, like I can't be with this person because it hurts too much. And it hurts too much because I'm attached to a version of the story that I still want that to be true. I still want to cling to that. But like most probably another episode is coming about this, but Ruta and I have changed our relationship status too. And in our case, when we broke up, it was like the best breakup I have ever experienced because it was a realization from both of us, like, okay, this is not romantic. And at the same time, we have deep love for each other. We still are like best friends. And we accept that. And we both are ready to shift the story to that. And the warmth continues. We have, in my case and in her case, we did not go cold to people in our past. We just moved on. But the thing is, people perceive that as coldness. And they close the door. They shut because it's painful for them. But I have proof now that it doesn't have to go cold. It could have if I or she chose to cling to a certain version of the story, and that clinginess then basically sucks everything out. And then I have no option but to be cold and be like, okay, you're not going to suck my energy anymore, or vice versa. But it's like, no, we are not clinging. We are both free. We are both detached. We are shifting the version of the story, and the love continues and the warmth continues. So I really think it's for people to understand where is the coldness being introduced. It's in the clinging. It's in the attachment. It's not that someone decided to move on or change the status of the relationship or change the story. It's just your pain that causes the coldness.
Yeah, God, that's really good. That's it's really interesting to put it into those terms, that actually that's where the coldness comes in. Yeah, it's the just not allowing the person to breathe, the relationship to breathe and be and change and transition into whatever it needs to transition. Oh, I don't even have any question to that. Like my brain is just like, oh, yeah. I feel like today you were talking about the beginning of the wormhole, basically. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's like an invitation for people to initiate their own personal wormhole, and whatever it is, whoever it is you want to become, just initiate the wormhole basically, and the rest it will just all start to naturally unfold. So I really like that.
Yeah, and if you want to have a guided experience of the wormhole, you can sign up for that in the description.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's the master part, like owning it. That's what comes through. Okay.
Yeah. Like now I'm ready to hold that space and guide people through that. Having so much experience, even in this lifetime, like even my human can do the guiding through this. Forget the master being here or not. But now, like, it feels like that integration of having the human who has gone through the experiences, who can speak from my experience in this lifetime, very personally, very directly, having gone through really all the ups and downs of identity shifting and like detachment, receivership, all of that. So like it feels like bringing both these aspects, like the soul cosmic divine aspect, which has the wisdom and the knowledge of how the whole thing functions, and then this very human aspect of this is what it actually is, the meat of the process. And it's like this is the real shit that goes down here. That's actually what I'm just even realizing as I say this, like what I have found missing. One of the early teachings I had received was that create what you have always wanted and you have found missing in the world. And what I have found missing is that teachings are either too human or too divine. They like very few people are able to merge this in a healthy way where it's like you can get the cosmic knowledge of the universal stuff, but then it's like too plain and direct, and it's like like okay, this is how it works, and get it and apply it, and the teacher is done just teaching and giving a knowledge, and or it's like delving deep into the human shit, and it's like really not getting a perspective of like when the fuck does this end? Like, do I have to keep healing forever and stop this nonsense? Basically, like when does this shit end? And like that is what I'm realizing now. Is like what I'm bringing to the table is like that intersection of this is what the raw human experience is like. This is what the universal laws are. Let's merge this to have the most effective way to move forward, to create what we want, to become who we want. As we were talking, like one of the things that sparked is like about incorporating archetypes. A lot of the times, like when this incorporation is taking place, like people are naming the archetype that they're incorporating. Like, oh, I'm incorporating this entity. I'm incorporating Jesus or Krishna or Bashar or Ra or whatever it is. Like, it's me, human, tiny, insignificant human. Still a little special because I'm chosen by this archetype. incorporating this archetype, but it's not an ownership that this is my power. I am here. I am a spiritual master. I have fused. I have done the work, the effort to fuse with the spiritual master and become that spiritual master. So I have done the human aspect of the inner work to become this. It's not just me, human, tiny, fucked up problems, blah, 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 incorporating this divine idealized being. It's like, I have gone through the whole rigorous process, feeling all the human feelings, going through all of the lower frequency stuff to come to this place where I can have that fusion of lower and higher and own that. Like, so I also want people to understand that, when I say and talk about spiritual mastery, it's like that is where I'm coming from. It's not just like, oh, I'm incorporating a spiritual master and these are the teachings, and then I don't know how to actually integrate and do all the work, which is what I was talking about, this connection of like, oh, this is the law of one and these are the spiritual teachings, and like, what do I do with it when my life is in the drain? I don't know. Like, oh, it sounds great, it sounds fantastic, and when I'm in a normal state of consciousness, I can apply all of this, but when I'm fucked, I don't give a shit about law, but no, like I actually know what is that fusion. And that's exactly the point, right? Like, just a few days ago, I was suddenly out after months or years in the state of paranoia of coconuts falling on my head out of nowhere. And I was able to actually apply all of the work I have done to again shift back into my regular higher state of consciousness. So yeah, like, like that is why I feel like what I'm bringing to the table is very different. And I feel also proud of that I get to present both sides of the picture. I get to present the nitty-gritty human challenges and the higher perspective at the same time.
Yeah, I really appreciate that you do use real life examples of who you are today, because so many people that are at this level, at your level that you're discussing now, of being a spiritual master, you don't get to hear that many examples of them. Of maybe they don't, share it that much, and I don't know why, because it's so powerful when you do like give real world examples of like, this is what I experienced literally today,
Yeah,
and it just brings
like, like a good example of this is like Eckhart Tolle or Sadhguru. Like, they had this spontaneous awakening where they cried for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then boom, like, now I'm a spiritual master, I'm perfect. And while there's a lot of wisdom coming through and it's respected and it's appreciated, at the same time, like, there is definitely a problem of being able to relate to it. It's like it's sometimes it's too high, it's too far, or it's being brought down to this very preachy kind of way of talking. Like, I've definitely felt that from many gurus that, it's like, you are a human having these problems and like blah, blah, blah. But it's like, there needs to be some way to relate. And that was, again, like, I really am happy about the fact that I'm bringing that relatability. And that is why I feel like I'm the portal between the old paradigm and the new paradigm, because a lot of the new paradigm, new or 5D, whatever teaching or like higher spiritual teaching just remain in that realm. They don't become relatable to the very like lower level human problems that people are going through on a day-to-day basis. So that's why it feels like, yes, we don't have to just dwell in the human shit, because that's also not going to work. That's not going to get you to the other side. But also, we don't have to be too much flying and not grounded in a sense.
Yeah, I just really appreciate that, also that you you have like the humanness to discuss and be like, today I was paranoid about coconuts falling on my head. And it's like, it's just so amazing, because yeah, I've never seen you really in fear, so I can't even really imagine you being in this paranoid state, never mind about coconuts. But and anger, and just like already that in itself is such a teaching, like just to like laugh about it, and yeah, it transmutes it completely. And I feel like, because a lot of the time it is like you said, with a lot of the guru dynamics, it's like people in the crowd, in the audience, come to the guru and they're like, I have this issue, how would you deal with my issue, even though it's like worlds away from where you are now. Which is so different to like the person, the master actually saying like, well, that's funny you say that, because yesterday, I was in a fit of rage and this was my experience. It's so grounded. It's just, yeah, like you said, you have the codes for both worlds, which is
Even today I was like, like whole day I've been pretty much kind of it's not sick, but like I'm having some symptoms of sickness, which again is very unusual for me. So like last few days, basically, I'm paying the consequences of my indulgence week of addiction. That's how I would right now interpret it, as like having body pains, having slightly like feverish cold symptoms, and like I was like a bit low earlier in the day, and then Ruta came and she was being very kind and loving and like calling me in this enduring way, Sicky. And, like, oh, it's poor Sicky, and like she bringing me fruits and all. And that also did trigger me a little bit. I'm like, I'm not sick. But like I didn't want to show up for this call. Part of me was like, oh, like even though I suggested it while I was sick, I was like, let's talk today. And I was like, oh, I still don't feel great. And like I have to show up still. But then there was this other part of me which was like, no, I'm fucking excited to do a recording, and I'm going to put in all this effort to today for the first time do a standing recording, and I'm going to put in this extra energy which I usually never put in, even though I'm feeling a bit low. And it's like, yeah, I'm applying all the teaching while I'm in the process. Like this is happening live right now. I'm still, having this kind of burning feeling in my eyes and my throat and back pain a little bit, like because of not exercising a lot. So like it's all happening right now, but it doesn't become like an excuse to diminish. It's like, no, I have the power to show up even then, and I have the power to show up even more how I really want to show up. Like, let me take this as an opportunity to shift more energy and get out of this funk that I have been in all morning. Not all morning, like we went out for a walk today, and then like in between there was this, but yeah, even the walk, like in the morning, I was like, I don't want to go for the walk because I'm feeling a bit sick. But it's like, no, I will enjoy it. I will go and have this experience, and all of this magic will happen.
Yes, you teach through your being. It's just that's the main thing, is you actually are embodied, and that's what has the biggest impact and gives such gravitas to everything that you're describing, because it isn't theory, it isn't the right thing to do or the right approach. It's like, this is what I am. Yeah. And I did not know you were sick. I was like, wow, someone has brought the energy today. Like when you said you wanted to stand up, I was like, okay, all right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking maybe to be a bit victimy and complain about it at the beginning before recording, like before hitting record when you were chatting. I was like, I'll tell her about how bad I'm feeling. And I'm like, fuck that.
Oh, that's so funny you say that, because I felt like shit all day. I was going to do the same. I was like, oh, I don't know. Oh, yeah. I was sort of like, when I was coming up to get ready, I was sort of like, oh, my back and everything hurts. And then, but I knew, I was like, but this is my medicine anyway. Like this would make me feel 10 times better than what, just like being a lemon on the sofa for a few hours. Like there's no point. So, but that's really funny. I had no idea you were ill. That's so funny. And if you had started, I would have definitely been like, yay, let's talk about that for half an hour. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that was the thing. Is like I did not want to waste time and energy talking about that because there was so much bubbling through me and wanting to come out. I'm like, I'm not going to distract and waste time, which was so my old me would have definitely like taken the opportunity to be like, like this is what happened today and this is how I'm feeling and blah blah blah. And it's like, no, let's even now use that in a productive way to exemplify, like there are different ways to deal with it. And like, let me just be clear, I'm still today not preaching that you have to be perfect all the time and you have to be in your peak performance all the time and you have to be all of this. I spent the morning on the couch feeling like a sickie. I did that. I gave myself that permission. And then I was like, okay, I had enough of that. Now it's time to show up.
Yep.
There is space for different experiences, there's space for different feelings and all of that. And balance. It's all about balance.
Exactly. Yeah. It's also not about, like you said, just like the whole grind culture of just like, my body's really fucked up and I'm really ill, but I'm going to force myself to do something. It's just, like feeling
Yeah,
into.
it's not that's the biggest difference. It's like I really wanted to show up.
Yeah.
And if I did not have that, right, I would have for sure told you, like, let's cancel.
Yeah.
For sure. Like that is still me today. If I don't have that heart and soul in what I'm doing, especially something as important as creation, like creating a podcast or whatever it is. Like when it comes to something that dear to me, if I'm not fully into it, I'm just like, there is no urgency, there is no rush. Like let's do it when I fully feel it. And can I do something also inspired to fully feel it? If that doesn't feel like I have to show up and I have to force myself and I have the power to do this and you can do this, like I'm not that person. I'm not for now, let's see. But at least for now, I'm not that. Because like, I was telling you a few days back that like I am now starting to see the positive side of positive motivation.
Right.
But I feel like there's also a big toxic side of positive motivation where people are like in denying themselves and not listening to their soul, like denying themselves the opportunity to have lower states
Yeah.
and realizing that you don't need to push yourself when you're fully aligned. But that's when you just really want to show up. And if you're a bit ill, or even if you're very ill, sometimes you're just like, no, like this, I really want to do this. And that switches the energy out of whatever funk you're in.
I completely agree. I think if you had tried to employ that archetype, let's say, of the like, you know, the cheerleader, when that isn't authentic to you, that doesn't feel authentic to you, then yeah, it would not have the desired effect at all. But because you've just explained, like, you are now that for yourself and you feel yourself becoming more aligned to that, it's a completely different experience, and that would be more authentic.
It still doesn't feel like cheerleader energy. I feel like cheerleader is one extreme.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
is something like, like healthy, subtle, positive motivation,
Yeah.
which is kind of my zone for now. Who knows where I go from here, but I can't imagine myself. Although I keep talking about you'll become something you can't imagine, but right now I can't imagine myself being a cheerleader like Tony Robbins, like, you can do this. Like,
Yeah, I
it's
can't.
just, I don't feel a resonance to that because for me, I also don't see the purpose that, well, I see the purpose of it. I have definitely gained an appreciation of people like Tony Robbins in the last month, where I see that it has a place in this world. And at the same time, I see the toxic side of that too, where people are basically using it as a drug. Like, I need this motivation, I need this cheerleader, where I truly believe that you don't really need a cheerleader when you are in your inner master. That you doesn't need a cheerleader.
Yeah, so it's almost like being the cheerleading type, or yeah, like that's an extreme obviously, but like the motivational type of teaching in and of itself is fine as long as the end goal is to then ignite that within the other person so they have it going forward themselves, not to be the only source, and that they, yeah, if you
Kind of depend on it, yeah.
yeah, don't set up a dependency. Exactly. So yeah, I agree.
And even, okay, like in my, what shifted, the biggest thing that shifted for me, because I used to say this a lot, like motivational coaches are like a drug and it's there's no place for it. Like I used to say this a lot. What shifted for me is like, in this gigantic world where all kinds of things are there is a place for that too. There's a place for everything. Like some people need that. Instead of coffee, they take a Tony Robbins session. Okay, what's wrong with that? Like there is no judgment about that too. If that's what helps you to create your magic, go for it. Great. And if you want something else, there are all kinds of things out there. So it definitely did shift for me, like really to start to see the purpose of every kind of different teacher experience, whatever it is, like really dropping the judgment of this is what is right, this is what is wrong. And still right now it came out. And then I was like, no, I already changed this. Let's remember what my current opinion is, not default to my old opinion.
yeah, it's like, it's so interesting to talk to you at this stage, particularly because it's like, you know, that you're getting acquainted as well simultaneously with this. Who is this new version of me exactly? Like what are the nuances? You know, maybe more of the macro aspects, but like the smaller aspects. It's just very fascinating to witness you kind of like getting to know this vibe, this version.
Yeah. So this has been great. Thank you for holding the space.
Thank you for blowing my mind, I think like 4 or 5 times in that. I don't feel like I even had any. I kept just being like, oh my God, I need to sit with this. I don't know how to respond. Yeah, so that's how you know it's a really good, whatever was being transmitted today is very powerful, I think. Yeah.